Hey everyone, it's it's Tuesday. I was doing my intros before and I was saying, hey guys, and somebody in my comments was like, why do you say hey guys? And I was like, what? That's like what we say here. Like in the South, I think they say, hey y'all. In Minnesota, everyone says, hey guys. Then I realized, wow, that's like so gender specific. So now I decided I'm just going to say, hey everyone, or hi friends. So, hey everyone, I hope you guys are having a really great Tuesday morning. Let's jump into a Mother of a Mother's Day, which, man, Teen Mom OG is hard to watch, you guys. So you are so lucky that I do this for you. The episode is supposed to focus on Mother's Day. Now, Mother's Day is a feature in 3 of the stories, but the story that's related to Amber does not include Mother's Day, which is bizarre. But it does include a travesty or an emotional period where Amber breaks down and has a hissy fit on TV. So here we go. Let's get started. Okay, so it starts off with Caitlin and Tyler. Now, in the episode, I have to just say, Caitlin is sort of a backstory because this episode of her family's rendition focuses on Tyler. Because let's be honest, Tyler's family is far more interesting than Caitlin's family because Caitlin only has April. But all the drama is really in Tyler's family related to his sister Amber and his father Butch and their addictions, okay? So Tyler is on his way to go to Texas to celebrate Amber's first 1 year of sobriety. If you remember Amber, his sister, has long had a history with drug addiction. A couple years ago, she was on the show and she looked like she was tweaked out. She looked really scary. People were like concerned she was doing drugs. Turns out she was. She's had some issues with her losing her children, but the good news is Amber is 1 year sober and Tyler was off to Texas to celebrate with his sister and present her with a chip at her AA meeting. Go Amber. Now, off to Tennessee. We're going to go see Maci and she's going to Capitol Hill. Yay! She's talking with a friend and she's going to lobby at the Capitol for more funding for polycystic ovarian syndrome, which for Maci has added increase. Maci says that her symptoms include painful cysts, and then she discussed how many women that have PCOS also have infertility. She doesn't explain what PCOS is, which would have been helpful in this specific episode, given that she's going to the Capitol to discuss it. MTV almost always misses the mark when it has the opportunity to explain what something is, but I digress. So she says for her, it's been painful cysts, and she's thankfully not had infertility, although she did suffer 1 miscarriage, she tells her friend, which she assumes is from the PCOS. Then she talks about how there is no cure for PCOS and she wants to lobby for more research to find a cure for this disorder. Then she complains that because there's no cure, you have to go on medications to manage the disorder, and so what you do is you trade symptoms for side effects of medications. Now, I'm just going to put my little caveat in here. PCOS is actually an endocrine disorder, and it affects the levels of estrogen and testosterone in the female body. It's treated by an endocrinologist. It can increase a woman's. It is a major factor in infertility, but it also has a lot of different things like causes cysts. Women who do have children can have difficulty with breastfeeding. It also increases and causes weight gain, which is the one thing that Maci's never seemed to have as an issue, which is always very interesting. And when she gets to Washington and she's meeting with other women of this PCOS conference, you would see how it affects women. it makes weight loss extremely difficult because the hormone levels are super off, and nearly every woman that she interacts with is overweight from the disorder, and she's not, which I've never figured out. But it can affect everyone differently, and that's one of the most common side effects is weight gain. Now, flash forward to Indiana, and we're with Gary and Christina. Christina is reading a text message from Leah's teacher to Gary, and she says that when Leah was on the bus, she had a tight chest, she was crying, and she said that she was having a hard time breathing. The teacher told her that she thought it could have either been a panic attack, maybe she had heartburn, but she wasn't really sure. She said after a few minutes, Leah calmed down, everything was fine, and she went on with her day. Then Christina and Gary talked about, like, should we go to, what should we do? And Gary says, this has only happened a couple times. There's really not a whole lot we should do at this point. I don't want to just assume that it's a panic attack because it's happened this one time. Let's just see what happens next and see what happens. I don't want her to be labeled as someone that has these issues, and I don't want Amber's history to influence whether or not this is a thing or not. Okay. I still think that's weird. Why wouldn't you just go to the doctor, Gary? Come on, you know that, like, mental illness runs in families. If your kid's maybe having a panic attack, go to the damn doctor. Shortness of breath and, like, tightness in the chest is not normal in a child. You should definitely be consulting a doctor. But Gary is one of those, like, good old boys that doesn't believe that, like, people are sick, so whatever. Anyways, now we're going to go to the irrelevant Cheyenne. Cheyenne's literally the most boring person here. Now she's talking about how I'm still in my long distance relationship with Matt. And then Cory has Ryder for Mother's Day. Boo-hoo. So she's on the phone with Cory and she's talking about how she just wants to see Ryder in the morning. And so Cory says he's going to take her out for brunch. Then she's like in the kitchen doing painting with her friends and her sister. And they're like talking crap about Cory's girlfriend and being like, do you think that Taylor should send you a text message? Would you be mad if she didn't send you a text message? And they're like making this all super dramatic. And so they all agree that Taylor should acknowledge Cheyenne on Mother's Day since she will be with Ryder, their daughter, on that day. So there you go. That was super boring. They painted Ryder is really cute and looks just like Cheyenne. All right. So now we're back to Tyler. Tyler is leaving for Texas, and he has Nova give his mother a present, gives her mother a present, and she gives mother her woo-filled essential oil. Yay. And it's this tiny little bottle that probably cost $50 because it was from Young Living. And Tyler's like, Happy Mother's Day. I'm sorry I would have gotten you something else, but Caitlin's like, I know this is so expensive, to which she smells it and then puts it in a cabinet and she'll probably never use it. Go, Caitlin. All right. So then he leaves for Texas and he's going to go celebrate Amber's 1 year of sobriety. He gets to Texas and he starts talking to his sister, and she says that their dad Butch relapsed and tested positive for his drug of choice, Coca-Cola, last week, and that she wants him to come to the chip celebration, but she hasn't heard back from him. She said that Butch was like, well, I wish you would have invited me. And then Tyler and Amber and their mom were like, well, didn't you invite him? And she was like, yeah, I invited him. And then cut to Maci. Like, none of these interactions last long enough, and there's really nothing of substance. So that was what happened there. Then Maci goes to this event where it's hosted by PCOS TV, and it's the PCOS challenge. And it's for women that have PCOS, and she's telling them all about how, go you, be strong, be fighting, keep going, you're not alone. It's pretty clear that PCOS TV or PCOS Challenge is using Maci's celebrity to get her to lobby at the Capitol, which is fine. A lot of celebrities, like a lot of organizations do this. It doesn't necessarily mean anything because celebrities are just normal people, and it doesn't really matter if a celebrity talks to a congressman or a regular person. But they're using Maci to go there. Now, back to Indiana. Can you keep up with this madness? Christina and Amber are at the salon, and they are getting their pedicures on. So she says, Christina's like, oh, I forgot to tell you, Amber, super cash. Like, so Leah had like, maybe had a panic attack at school. And then Amber's like, oh, what? You didn't tell me? Oh my God. But she was like being really calm and pretending like she wasn't affected. And then she asks Boo Boo if she's had any of these before. And Leah's like, maybe like 8 in the last 2 years. I don't know. Leah doesn't seem to care, doesn't seem to get it. She seems fine. She said that she had 8 tight chest experiences. Amber gets really upset and says that when she was 9, she started having panic attacks and that she wishes that they would have told her, and she wants Christina to keep her in the loop when things like this happen because no one has informed Amber about what's going on with Leah. I kind of agree with Amber there. I mean, if the mother is if something's going on with your kid medically, the other parent should know. And in the state of Indiana, they do have joint custody, even though that Gary has primary custody. So, but Amber could also get this information on her own. So I don't know. I'm torn. Now, cut to Cory and Taylor, boring Cheyenne irrelevant story. And they go to the aquarium, and Taylor's doing her best. I'm the perfect stepmom, but I've only been dating Cory for 2 minutes. And then they're in the car after they go to the aquarium, and Ryder has a blast. And then Taylor goes, do you think Taylor feels a certain type of way about you having her on Mother's Day? The way that she said it did not fit her very Valley girl persona. It just sounded off with her saying, do you think Taylor feels a certain type of way? To which Cory says, no, everything with Cheyenne is fine. There's never any drama, and he's going to take her out to brunch and give her flowers. And then they start talking about how Taylor is super maternal, and she just feels like a mother when she's around Ryder because kids do that. And then Cory and her talk about how much Ryder loves her. And then Cory's like, Taylor, maybe I need to get you flowers too. Shut up, Cory. Your girlfriend has literally known Ryder for 2 minutes. You're a player. You're not going to marry Taylor. So don't even confuse your daughter. Okay, Cory? God, Cory is so annoying. Anyways, now back to Maci. Maci wears leather pants. I'm not even kidding. She wears leather pants to the Capitol. No better way to get a congressman to take you seriously than to wear leather pants. Let me show you a photo. There's Maci in her leather pants at the Capitol. Oh, yay. They're meeting with Chuck Fleischman, who is a congressman, and he works on the Appropriations Committee, which determines funding for specific issues related to health. And the person from the PCOS challenge is basically coaching her about what she needs to say. Fleischman, Chuck Fleischman. And she's super excited. She's they don't film. So here's the thing is, they respect the congressman's privacy, and so they choose not to film at the Capitol. But they don't respect children's privacy, so they will film everything related to drama related to children's, but not important issues related to PCOS. In fairness, they probably weren't allowed, but they probably shouldn't be allowed in these girls' homes. Anyway, Maci comes out of the meeting thinking that the congressmen are going to give all this funding to PCOS, and she's all yeah, we've done it. But I'm pretty sure they probably won't do anything for PCOS because, let's be honest, rare diseases get 0 funding, and no matter how many times you lobby, these Congress people will tell you anything that you want to hear when you meet with them. But Maci's naive and assumes that the congressman is going to do everything that she asks. Ha! All right. Now, cut to bulgy-eyed Ryan. Now, this Ryan has his, the man of few words. This is literally, the shortest scene in history. He shows up for about 32 seconds. And I've got a screenshot of how Ryan's face looks for you guys. Yep, there's Ryan. Ryan's nose is all full of marks. His eyes look bulgy. He actually looks sort of high. But, Ryan's off probation now, you guys. So he's totally clean. Yay! To which... they're all sitting in a garage because that's apparently what you do when you live at Ryan's house. And Mackenzie and his mom are all so how does it feel to be out of, what was it like? And he was Was it real rough? That's what Jen says. Was it real rough? And he was like, it was just boring. There's nothing to do in prison. To which Mackenzie's sitting right next to him. Like, Ryan's making zero eye contact with her. Anytime she talks, he completely deflects and like minimizes her. And she's like, yeah, this was really rough. I mean, we all went through a lot. And he goes, it was worth it because now it's all done. I mean, literally, that was the extent of Ryan's, that was the 2 minutes that Ryan shows up on the TV. He said probably 10 words, and then we were done. And in that time, he minimized and deflected and was ignoring his wife. Yep, sounds about like Ryan. See you next time, Ryan. All right. Now, back to Austin, Texas. Tyler's getting ready to go to his first sobriety meeting with his sister, and they start talking at this Airbnb that he's rented for him and his mom. And they are sitting at the table with Amber, his sister, and they're talking about how Butch isn't going to go to the celebration. So Amber's like, yeah, I invited Butch, but he decided that he's not going to come. And he's not going to come because he texted me and he said, well, he didn't have anyone at his first year of sobriety, so I don't need anyone there either. To which they start talking about how Butch is bitter, he's angry, and he's like hurting her because no one was there for him, so he's gonna get there for he's not gonna be there for her. To which Tyler says that he has no expectations for Butch anymore. Finally, at 28 years old, he's finally realized his dad is a POS, and that he doesn't even know who his father is. To which then Tyler calls his wife, which it says on Tyler's phone, it says the wife, and he talks about how Amber getting clean has really helped him realize what a piece of crap his dad is. Now, over to Amber in Indiana. She's super upset about the panic attacks and asks Leah to call her or text her. And then Christina talks to Gary about Leah. It's really funny because the show is supposed to be about Amber, but she's barely in the show because guess what? She doesn't have custody of Leah. Gary has custody. Gary's on the show more than Amber. It should be Gary, not Amber, okay? So Gary says that Leah's issues are more related to tweeny drama, and he says that he doesn't really think it's necessary for them to go see a doctor at this point in time because he's not convinced that there's anything going on, and that it would be really unrealistic for them to call Amber and tell them every single thing that's going on in the house. Christina tells Gary, well, I understand from her point of view as a mother that she would want to know. And then Gary says he doesn't know if he wants to go to Amber immediately because she will jump to this conclusion that her daughter has mental illness. And he says, I know there's this bipolarness. That's what he literally called Amber's illnesses. I know there's this like bipolarness stuff and other like anxiety, but he doesn't really think that that's going on with Leah. And then Christina suggests calling the pediatrician, and Amber wants them to go to a psychiatrist. Of course, right? Of course, because you have one panic attack and your kid needs to go to a psychiatrist. Probably not Amber. But Gary doesn't want Leah to be shadowed by Amber's mental illness, which I understand. Let Leah go in her own, let her paint her own path. I get it. But I still think if you're having a kid that has so many issues, you go to the doctor. But poor Christina doesn't have a choice. She doesn't have custody. It's not her kid. So she has to go by what good old boy Gary wants. Now, back to Cheyenne. She's in at Mother's Day brunch, and she got a text from Taylor, and they wished her happy Mother's Day. Oh, see? Wah, wah, wah. All that bitching about Taylor not sending you a Mother's Day gift or his text, and she went ahead and sent you a Mother's Day text. Then we go back to Tyler. And he goes home to talk about Butch, and he's in his kitchen, and he's with his dad because of Butch. And Caitlin's in the kitchen too, and she's all talking with them, and they're like, I feel like we've been talking about Butch for 10 years, since middle school. And Tyler's like, this has been my whole life. And then Caitlin's all in the kitchen looking super frumpy, and she's just like, I think it's made you a better dad. And then Tyler's like, I am a better dad because of my dad. I'm not going to do what Butch did. Okay, now back to Maci. She gets home. Her kids give her a little bit of a Mother's Day card. She gets a kiss from her little boy. Her little girl's like, Happy Mother's Day! And then Bentley gives her a kiss, and then Taylor's there for 2 seconds. And then then cut to her talking to her friend where Maci's like talking about her events at Congress and how she really believes that this congressman is going to give them the funding, and she knows that her assertiveness is going to be what pushes them over the edge. And she said, I just don't want people to feel alone with this disease, and this disease can make you feel insane even though you're really not. Okay, again, another opportunity to explain what PCOS is, Maci, but again, you didn't, so who knows? All right. Then we go back to Amber, and this is the end scene, you guys. Like, listen, this was the end scene, and Amber is in the kitchen, because I swear these people only talk in the kitchen. What is with this show where like all of the major conversations in their lives take place in kitchens? So here's Amber. Amber's like bawling her eyes out because she's automatically convinced that Leah is now suffering from mental illness too. And so she's like totally crushed about Leah. She's bawling her eyes out to Andrew, who's like in the cabinet looking for some BS supplements because Andrew's like totally into woo-woo shit. And so he's like looking for some bottles of crap, and he's like sitting there like, and I get the sense that Andrew doesn't really get mental illness, and he thinks that you can fix it with like a drop of sage and a dash of lavender oil, but I digress. And she's crying about how she's adamant that Leah's having these panic attacks, even though she's never witnessed it. But because they said she had shortness of breath and her chest was tight, that must have meant that she was having a panic attack. Now, shortness of breath and tightness of the chest could be many things. It could be asthma. It could be heartburn. You don't automatically know that it's a panic attack, okay? So Andrew's like mad that Gary left her out of it. He's like, he should have told you. I mean, you're the mom. And then Amber says this very telling thing, and she goes, well, it's like I did stuff in the past, back in the day, but it has nothing to do with me today. Oh, the foreshadowing, Amber. It's almost like we knew you were going to get in trouble and use a cucumber weapon against Andrew. Maybe Gary hasn't been including you in things because he knows you're not stable. So she goes and bawls. She's crying. She's doing her ugly cry, but I'm convinced, you guys, nobody does a better ugly cry than Farrah. I really miss Farrah's really ridiculous ugly cries. And I realized that without Farrah on the show, even with her nasty behavior, it's so boring because Amber is only on there for 2 seconds because she doesn't have custody of Leah, so they literally never talk to her. And then they have Maci's, who kids are never involved. Then, you guys, after the show, I did some digging. So that was the end scene, okay? So then after the show, I did some digging. According to the custody agreement with Gary and Amber, she has joint custody of her, but Gary has physical custody, and she has to pay child support to Gary for Leah. And last year she said that Leah is at a point where she's deciding whether or not she wants to actually see her mother. So if Leah has if say they plan to have her on the weekend, it doesn't even sound like they have like a really formal, like you get her every other weekend kind of thing. So she said, well, if Leah doesn't want to see me or say she wants to spend time with friends, she'll just tell me, and then I'll just let her do that because I just want her to be happy. Because, she's at 9, and so she can kind of determine where she wants to go. And I just want her to be happy. But I do have to remind her sometimes that mommy wants to see you and mommy wants to spend time with you. Maybe part of the reason they don't tell you anything, Amber, is because you're just like, oh, you don't want to come here? Oh, cool. Then I don't have to pretend like I care. Then I don't have to pretend like I'm responsible. Then I don't have to pretend like it's something. And the only time you actually care is when your kid has tightness of chest and maybe is a little bit like anxious. Now, I would agree that Leah could very well be going through some anxiety. Hell, this kid has been through the ringer with her mother, and it wouldn't be surprising if she did. But I do think it's premature at this point in time to already diagnose someone when you don't even know what's going on with your daughter. It's premature to assume that just because you have something, that your child has something. It can be an indicator, but it doesn't have to be what it is, if that makes sense. And, it would take more than just 1 or 2 events to really know what's going on. If it became an issue, They should be addressing this with her doctor. She should be going to the doctor for these incidents to at least discuss it. But Gary is like this good old boy that doesn't seem to believe in like what mental illness is and doesn't really want his daughter to be defined by his mother's issues. Now, on the one side, I agree with this because Amber is a product of her upbringing. Now, I know we've talked a lot about how mental illness plays a factor in her anger, but I'm going to tell you something. On Marriage Boot Camp, this was like eye-opening to me. She discusses her childhood. All of this violence that she's exhibiting is from her childhood. It's what she saw growing up. It's how she handled everything. Her mother and her dad had issues where they were violent with one another. They were in a domestic violence situation. And every like squabble in that family was handled through violence. So this whole idea that she has this illness that's contributing to this violence is very unlikely, and it's more likely that it's a product of what she saw growing up. Because we already know that children that grow up in those types of environments have a higher incidence of becoming themselves in a relationship like was modeled to them, and also exhibiting behaviors that were modeled to them, because when their little brains are learning, they're like, oh, that's how mommy and daddy handled conflict. That's what we do. So yes, the bipolar could certainly be playing a factor, but so much of this is related to her upbringing. And Dr. Ish on Marriage Boot Camp points that out multiple times, that she really needs to stop being a child. She needs to get out of being her child phase, but it's like she's stuck in that very immature place and refuses to grow up. So I'm not always convinced that this is all related to mental illness, but also related to her upbringing and what she saw and what she learned growing up. And it's up to her to break that cycle. It's up to her to learn coping strategies. It's up to her to do the work to learn how to do and manage her temper. We all have that capability. So, they do need to take her to the doctor. I agree. Leah should be going to the doctor. For the very least, to even discuss the symptoms. I think, unfortunately, Gary is the one that has made the decision that they're not going to. Next week, he and Amber are going to have another conversation about it. So we'll see where this plays out. Of course, I will keep you up to date. And then an update on Amber is that she is currently living with her mother, Tanya, who is another hot mess. Oh my God, does Tanya have issues? Tanya, when she was on Marriage Boot Camp, was on prescription medications and was taking a lot of them, so much so that she was slurring. And according to Amber, her mother has been addicted to pills her whole life, which is, again, like, this is the thing, you guys, like, she wants to blame all of this on mental illness, but a lot of this is learned behavior, and addiction is a family disease. And I know this because my husband, his parents were both addicts. My mother-in-law was, by the time she passed away, she was 10 years sober from alcohol. My father-in-law has been sober for like 35, 40 years of alcohol. Three of my husband's siblings are still addicts. Like, they use periodically, or they relapse. So it's a lot of it is like, it's a learned, like, this is how your parents cope. This is where they go to. This is what you see as a child. And it's why it becomes a pattern of behavior for coping. And it becomes a way, like, kids see how their parents, like, oh, I'm not feeling good, I'm going to reach for the bottle, or I'm going to reach for this pill. And, so much of this starts with what children see, which is why it's so important that children don't see this kind of stuff and that parents are healthy. So we have one super chat. Kim F says, thank you for keeping us up to date. But yes, I will always be glad to take super chats. I don't get very many of them, but I think with Amber, we have a lot more than just mental illness going on. This is a woman that grew up in a very toxic household, and instead of really taking the steps to get better, she's living in sort of that that childlike phase. And I see this even in my own family, where some people just, they can't get past it and they just stay in that place of where they were when they were a child and they don't get better. Or there's people like my husband who kind of went the other direction. He did struggle with alcohol, but never to the extent that his parents or his brothers or sisters have. And he just one day decided that he needed to quit because he wasn't doing it responsibly. So I do have a PayPal address if you would like to send me super chats. It's Katie Paulson77 at iCloud.com. So let me just put this in the... That's my PayPal. So next week, they will be talking about Leah again. Sounds like there's going to be some stuff with Taylor. They're throwing some sort of party for Taylor. And there's going to be something to do with, I don't even remember. I don't know. So right now they're actually in New York, or they were in New York. They were doing the reunion, which Amber didn't attend. So Amber will not be at the reunion this year. Obviously, she probably can't be at the reunion due to being on bail. You typically cannot leave the state when you have an active criminal case. So they were there. All of them were posting videos online, doing different things. So I don't know. They haven't announced if there's going to be another season. They seem to do this season by season. We'll see if they renew it. If they didn't say it's the end, I'm sure they would announce if it was the end. But I'm sure they're going to have to see what everything looks like with the ratings. The ratings have been down a lot, like a lot. I will get you the ratings for the show. Let's see. So for the end of last week, where was Teen Mom OG? Let's look. So last week, for the week, for Monday, July 8th, they had 734,000 people tune in for the show, which is low, you guys, really low. It's half of what it was when Farrah was on there 2 years ago. Just to give you an indication. When Farrah was on, they were averaging about 1.4 million every single week. Right now, it's 734,000, which for cable, to give you sort of where that sits, like 90 Day Fiance had 1.7 million people. Below Deck Mediterranean had 1.6 million. WWE Entertainment had 2.3 million. Major League Baseball Celebrity Softball had 2.1 million. Love and Hip Hop Atlanta had 1.7 million. Home Run Derby had 3.4 million. Home Run Derby had 5.3 million. But then and that was all on Monday. So people were more interested on Monday about the All-Star game than they were about Teen Mom. Yes, also you can consider becoming a patron if you want to donate monthly to me. So I will be back next week with the next recap, and I'm glad that I can keep you guys abreast. I know many of you don't want to watch the show, and I realize that. So I figured I'll watch it for you, even though I'm not super into it. And this way we can at least talk about it, and you guys can keep updated, right? Yeah! All right, you guys, I hope you have a really good day. Also, make sure you check out my stream from last night. A lot of you guys have been asking for more personal stuff from me. I did a stream last night about something super important to me related to plastic straws and my advocacy for children and adults with disabilities. If you want to know and get a better peek into my life, I think that would be a really great video to give you an understanding of what I do outside of this work. This work is fun, but this is the kind of work that pays the bills. The stuff that I'm super passionate about doesn't always make me the money. So I have to do a combination of both tea and advocacy here. In the world of news, celebrity stuff seems to pay the bills. So I hope you guys have a great day. I'll be back later today for another video. We'll be talking about Kylie Jenner. So get ready for that. Bye, guys.